A new alliance of semiconductor materials makers has just been launched in Taiwan, and a major local manufacturer has made a materials change it describes as unprecedented in the past 40 years. I see this as a sign that AI's explosive demand is starting to punch holes in the invisible entry barrier that has long protected Japanese materials makers. Simply being able to deliver materials without interruption is itself becoming a competitive edge. This news symbolizes that shift.
Hello everyone, I'm Ty, with 31 years in the semiconductor industry. Today, I'm covering the Materials Alliance established by SEMI Taiwan. By the end of this video, you'll understand why materials decide winners and losers in semiconductors, and how the relationship between Japanese and Taiwanese materials makers is about to change. Please stay with me until the end. Let's start with a simplified analogy. Imagine the world's greatest food city. Famous restaurants line its streets, and customers pour in from around the globe. Naturally, it consumes more ingredients than anywhere else. No other place on Earth buys ingredients in such volume and at such high quality.
The restaurants in this city have long-standing commitments. Flour from that particular mill, soy sauce from that particular brewery. They've used the same distant, long-established suppliers for decades. The reason is simple. Their recipes are fine-tuned around those exact ingredients. Change one ingredient, and all the tasting and adjustment has to start over.
So the city's iron rule was, if the current ingredient works, don't change it. No matter how good the local farmer's produce was, they were turned away for having no track record. For the established suppliers, this no reason to switch mindset was the most powerful defensive wall they could ask for. But recently, everything changed. A new signature dish became a global sensation, and customers multiplied beyond anything seen before. Even running at full capacity, the established suppliers can't fill even half the orders. Without ingredients, even the finest restaurant can't serve a single dish. It's no longer we don't want to change. It's we can't stay open unless we change. So the city takes action. It gathers local farmers and producers into a cooperative and starts building a system where restaurants and suppliers develop new ingredients together, test them, and shorten the path to adoption. Now let's look at how this simplified story is actually unfolding in the real industry. On August 21st, Taiwan's industry body, SEMI Taiwan, established a materials coalition called the SEMI Taiwan Materials Alliance, as reported by the Taipei Times on August 22. More than 30 companies are participating, including packaging giant ASE, silicon wafer maker GlobalWafers, and chemicals company LCY Chemical. Taiwan is already the world's largest market for semiconductor materials. According to SEMI, Taiwan's materials purchases in 2025 came to about $21.7 billion, roughly 30% of the global total of about $73.2 billion, making it the world's largest materials-consuming region for 16 consecutive years in a row. That's an overwhelming share for a single region. These numbers reveal Taiwan's massive TSMC-centered manufacturing capacity from the materials side. Behind this are the 2-nanometer generation of leading-edge processes and the expansion of advanced packaging. SEMI Taiwan President Terry Tsao says these technology advances are driving demand in Taiwan for specialty gases, chemicals, and key raw materials. The finer the process, the higher the quality demanded of materials, and as packaging grows more sophisticated, new materials are needed there as well. That said, this alliance is not a simple replace everything with Taiwanese products movement. What SEMI Taiwan emphasizes is reducing the risk of raw material disruptions and strengthening the supply network that supports manufacturing in Taiwan. The starting point is defense rather than offense. Meanwhile, ASE Vice President Huang Yitsong says AI demand is creating supply constraints unlike anything seen before. Now let's dig a little deeper. It's tempting to read this news as Taiwan is building its own materials base, Japanese makers are in trouble. But what I'm really watching is something else. The no reason to switch entry barrier that has long protected the semiconductor materials world is now quietly starting to crumble. Semiconductor materials can't be swapped easily, even when performance is identical. Change one material, and process conditions, yield, even reliability testing may all have to be redone. If nothing's wrong, don't touch it. That mindset has been the massive wall protecting Japanese materials makers. But ASE now explains it can meet less than half of its customer demand. The reality is, unless new suppliers get qualified, products simply can't be built. In other words, the shortage itself is forcing the door open. There's a symbolic example. Prompted by a global supply shortage, ASE began using T-glass, a glass cloth from Taiwan glass, 2 years ago, a materials change it describes as unprecedented in the past 40 years. Glass cloth reinforces package substrates, and for AI chips, it's increasingly critical for suppressing warpage caused by larger package sizes and heat. The powerhouse in this field is Japan's Nittobo. This is a case of a Taiwanese maker breaking into a Japanese stronghold, with supply shortage as the entry point.
Here's how I see Taiwanese makers getting in. First, they're adopted as second sources for AI and HPC products to cover the shortfall, and they build a year or two of volume production experience. Once they have that, they're no longer unproven newcomers. Then they expand into communications and industrial equipment, and finally into automotive, the segment with the toughest requirements of all. I think this sequence is entirely plausible. At the same time, seeing this as a simple Japan versus Taiwan showdown would also be wrong, because Nittobo itself is leveraging Taiwan. The company decided to add furnaces at its Taiwan site, and in November 2025 announced a partnership with Taiwan's Nanya Plastics. It will outsource part of its weaving process, with plans for Nanya to weave about 20% of its total glass cloth by 2027. Meanwhile, it's concentrating its own investment in yarn production and cloth treatment, the steps that determine quality. In other words, use Taiwan's enormous capacity for the steps that need scale, and keep the steps that form your competitive core in your own hands. I believe the more accurate picture is this. The materials supply chain for AI semiconductors is starting to reorganize around Taiwan, with its huge demand and manufacturing base. The real question is which walls will fall and where the technology walls will remain. For Japanese materials makers, this is both a warning and a hint. The no reason to switch wall will keep thinning under AI's off-the-charts demand. Defense alone won't be enough. Like Nittobo, the challenge is to keep the quality-critical steps in-house while tapping into Taiwan's production capacity and its closeness to customers. For Taiwanese materials makers, this is not just a chance to grow sales. It's a rare opportunity to earn the credential of a qualified, volume-proven materials supplier. When we look back at the AI chip market 5 years from now, I wouldn't be surprised to see several Taiwanese materials makers that used AI demand as their springboard onto the world stage. Let me sum up. SEMI Taiwan has established a materials alliance with more than 30 participating companies. The starting point is defensive, reducing supply disruption risk, but severe AI-driven shortages are punching holes in the decades-old no reason to switch barrier. Beyond fabs, the ability to keep materials flowing is becoming a competitive edge. Keep watching this quiet tectonic shift in materials. That's all for today. I'll keep bringing you semiconductor news and analysis, so if you found this useful, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. This has been Ty on Semiconductor News Decoded.